We begin in the month of April, late at night. Peter and Mary Jane are at a restaurant. She asks if Peter is sure this is a good idea, and Peter thinks at least this situation has given them a chance to get out of the house and dress up nicely. Mary Jane can't argue with that. Peter looks very good dressed this way. Then their conversation is interrupted by Harry, regretting being late. Peter asks him how he's doing, and Harry replies that he's fine and wants to know if Peter had any trouble getting into this place. Peter doesn't deny it. He was almost not let in until he mentioned Harry Osborne's name. He apologizes. The people who come here are quite insufferable. For example, Harry comes to eat once a week. Osborn asks Peter what drinks they're going to have, and Peter replies, "Probably a lot." He also introduces his wife, Mary Jane. Harry mentions that Peter has told him all about her, and honestly, he wouldn't shut up. It's like Peter is obsessed with his wife. Mary Jane calls that situation being in love. Harry also congratulates Mary Jane on her new business. He likes it when people are independent. Mary Jane thanks him. Sometimes she's so busy she barely realizes she's terrified. Harry calls that situation being excited, and this way Mary Jane understands why Harry likes Peter. Peter asks where Harry's wife is. Harry regrets her lateness. She was attending to business. Suddenly, Harry's wife appears, Gwen Stacy. Gwen introduces herself to Peter and Mary Jane, and Harry asks why she's late. Gwen replies that she had trouble with her business, but it's nothing they should be worried about. They should just sit at the table and start eating. Moments later, Mary Jane tries the food, and it's fascinating. Harry mentions that it's very good food. The chef comes from Argentina. Gwen corrects Harry. The chef is from Uruguay. Then, Peter wonders when was the last time he went out with Mary Jane like this, and she reminds him it was before their kids. Mary Jane asks Harry if they have any, and Gwen replies no, although she'd like to think she'd make a good mother. They're considering it. Peter assures them that having children is the best thing in the world. But Harry doesn't plan to bring children into this world, and Mary Jane understands. It's quite terrifying to bring children into this world. Mary Jane asks how long they've been married. Harry replies it's hard to say. Every day of his life since then has been like a dream. Gwen cuts in and says they've been married for years, months, and days. Harry mentions he could achieve it after a lifetime of effort. But Harry is tired of talking about himself and his wife. He wants Mary Jane to say why she came here. Peter's intentions are quite clear. It's time for Mary Jane to talk about her business. Peter doesn't deny it, and mentions that Mary Jane has a public relations agency. She's a marketing genius. Gwen asks how she got into that, and according to Mary Jane, in the past, she used to model, and for a while she started managing her own brand. People liked what she did, and word about her work began to spread. Next, Mary Jane was working at major marketing firms. Gwen recognizes one of the firms. Harry's father used to work with them. Although Mary Jane regrets having worked in that one exactly, at first, they let her choose her own clients. But then they asked her to simply make the problems disappear. Mary Jane didn't like that. Harry asks what clients she has now. According to Mary Jane, she's currently working on damage control and has had contracts with various clients, but only recently has she acquired new clients once. She asks Peter if it's okay to talk about that. Peter doesn't mind. Mary Jane tells them she's been working with JJ and Ben Parker, as they started a new news agency recently. They've just decided on a name, and speaking of both friends, JJ isn't sure about Mary Jane's decisions. They're doing online news, but Mary Jane wants their news agency to be called The Daily. JJ thinks maybe it's ironic. Ben thanks JJ for visiting just to complain. Also, Mary Jane explains that she chose the name because it was quite meta. Richard interrupts. It's really for both reasons. Ben likes the name. It makes it seem like their news agency is for ordinary people and not for elitists. JJ agrees, but it's somewhat generic. He remembers that maybe if they remove a letter, they can patent the name. Then, they are both interrupted. May wants to know when JJ is leaving, getting back to the scene. Harry says he likes the name. Every day he wakes up, he can't stop thinking that his life needs more news. Gwen asks him not to be spoiled, but Harry is joking. His father always said that Ben was the salt of the earth. He hopes things work out for him, but he's not sure if this is the right market. Peter asks if he thinks it's too competitive. Harry replies that this is a closed system and Peter will realize it very soon. Although Gwen likes the proposition, it's going to depend a lot on how Ben and JJ cover the news. She has an idea of what they should do. They should work with Peter's photos. He's been taking photos of that masked man. Gwen likes those photos. Gwen continues, all the coverage about that mysterious man is being sanitized. It's quite obtuse and corporate. Everyone is forgetting a small detail. What is the reason why this man exists? There must be a purpose. The mysterious man must be filling a need, for better or for worse. Gwen would like to think he's not a bad guy, but if he were a good guy, that would bother several people because it would point out that there's something wrong with the world, and maybe this mysterious man is what everyone is looking for, a cure for what bothers them. Peter thinks Gwen has thought a lot about this situation, and Gwen replies that people need heroes, and if Uncle Ben is going to report on that, it's fine. Peter should lend him his photos. Peter points out that he works for the Daily Bugle. Gwen replies that if he keeps that attitude up, he'll keep working there. Harry laughs and asks Gwen, who is a general manager, to be a little more delicate with the common man, but also points out that she's not wrong. Gwen apologizes. She said too much, and now she needs to go to the bathroom. Mary Jane gets up to accompany her, and both women leave Peter and Harry behind. Back at Peter's house, May has fallen asleep, and Richard mentions that his sister didn't like her very much. JJ doesn't blame her. She's not the only one to think that way. Uncle Ben asks Richard what he thinks, and the boy thinks it's great that both of them are covering news together. But according to Ben, that's because Richard reads too much. The boy thinks everyone should read, and Ben isn't saying otherwise. It's just that you have to give them a reason to read, and that's what's hard. Uncle Ben also mentions that Richard has an hour left before he has to go to bed, and asks if he wants to watch TV. Back at the restaurant restroom, Gwen tells Mary Jane she likes the color she's wearing and wants to ask her something. She's afraid she's being too harsh sometimes. Her job as a general manager makes her act that way outside of work, and she has certain opinions. Mary Jane replies that everything is fine, and this eases Gwen a bit because she wants to ask her a favor. Mary Jane probably knows this, but Oscorp bought Starkstain, and since then the company has escalated quite a bit. They have too much money and don't know where to spend it. Gwen has already donated to all existing charities, and tonight has made Gwen think of Peter and Mary Jane. This confuses Mary Jane a bit. She and Peter are not going to take any money, but that's not what Gwen means. She refers to Ben and JJ's newspaper. Maybe Gwen can help them. Meanwhile, Harry smiles at Peter, and Peter asks him why he's doing that. Harry has noticed that Peter hasn't told Mary Jane anything. Peter says that's pretty obvious, and soon realizes something Harry has told Gwen. Harry doesn't deny it. He's told her everything. Peter thinks that's a big mistake. However, Harry loves his wife, and there are no secrets between them. Also, he can't believe Peter hasn't told anyone. Peter confesses that his daughter found out, and this eases Harry a bit. He thought Peter was going to talk to him about the importance of secrets, but Peter does think it's important. The fact that he hasn't told Mary Jane is not because he doesn't trust her, it's just that he wants to protect her. Harry asks if he really thinks he can live his life isolating himself from the consequences of the people he loves. Peter replies that he doesn't even know if he wants to keep doing this, but Harry has seen him in action. He knows he likes doing this, and if Harry is brave enough to live with the consequences, then Peter has to be too. Peter asks why he thinks that, and Harry replies that at the end of the day, he's just a guy in a suit. Peter is much more than that. Also, this situation falls on them. Peter asks what situation. Harry replies saving the world. Peter thinks that's too much weight for just two people, and he also explains that for the first time in his life, he's doing something he's good at. To have bad people stop doing bad things, it feels right, but saving the world sounds too big. Harry doesn't think he's going to tell Peter what to do with his life. It's up to him to say that. He's not going to force him to follow him, but Peter must understand something. The people who run the world are playing God and have been doing so all their lives. This is quite systemic. It has infected everyone, and Peter has great power. He must understand that with great power comes great responsibility. It's a great gift, but only if he can use it. Then Peter asks what Jane thinks, and she replies that it was scary. Harry and he turned out to be quite intense. Peter can't deny it. He thinks the same. But he wants to know what Mary Jane thinks about what they said. Mary Jane asks him exactly what. Peter replies that Harry and he said that the world needs heroes. Mary Jane replies that she doesn't need heroes. She has Peter. Alright guys, that's how another chapter of Ultimate Spider-Man ends, written by Jonathan Hickman. But this month we have a guest artist, David Messina. Although it's not Checha 2, the art has been decent. This artist will accompany us at least until the next issue. And then Marco Ciccetta returns. I quite liked this chapter, although we simply had 4 people sitting at a table talking. But the things that were said are quite interesting. Look at how Hickman, from a conversation at dinner, sets a starting point for a lot of future plots, because here we've started the plot of, okay, Harry is quite intense with his ideals. From this conversation, I can see that Harry and Peter, as much as they want to achieve the same thing, which is to help people, They're not going to do it in the same way, and that's going to cause a rupture in their relationship. We've also seen the beginning of the JJ and Ben's daily plot. If Gwen gives them capital, they'll be able to compete directly with the Daily Bugle, which will put them in great danger because they'd be competing directly with these people who control the world. Likewise, Gwen will be in great danger. Another plot that wouldn't surprise me if it comes up in the future is JJ saving, perhaps, Peter's children. Because the fact that May doesn't like JJ would lend itself later for JJ to show that he's not really such a bad guy, and May grow fond of him. If we analyze it, Hickman has done quite a bit in this issue, and that's how he has always written, sowing seed after seed after seed after seed, and in the Ultimate Spider-Man issue we see the results. A super interesting fact to highlight is the fact that Oscorp bought Stark's company, and it's with that technology that Harry made his suit. That's why technically he owns that technology, and that's the real reason why he was able to control Peter's suit, because Peter's suit has also been made by Stark. And thinking about that, I would like later when Peter gets to know Tony more, maybe there's some kind of rupture between them, and Peter says, you know what, take your suit, I'm gonna make mine, or maybe Mary Jane makes it for him. We know that Mary Jane has worked in the fashion industry. There are many possibilities for this comic, really. Tell me guys, what do you think? Leave me your opinions in the comments, and before we go, a big thank you to the people who are members of the channel.